July 2023. The world stops to listen at the Russia-Africa Summit. The global media erupted in stunned silence that July when a young, unyielding 35-year-old president from Burkina Faso took the stage at the Russia-Africa Summit. Without notes or a script, his piercing gaze fixed the room as he delivered a speech that ripped away decades of silence. Each word he spoke laid bare a truth the entire continent had long avoided confronting. From that vast conference hall in St. Petersburg, shockwaves rippled across the world. Africa began to stir, and Western powers watched uneasily from the sidelines. But behind that speech was a far greater story, an unexpected, defiant journey fueled by raw inspiration. The address that shook the world was no mere political statement. It was a seismic call for awakening. In that cavernous room filled with presidents, diplomats, and advisors from scores of nations, the atmosphere was scripted to perfection: polite greetings, tedious speeches, stiff protocol, a stage set for formalities and empty platitudes. Then a young man rose, no papers in hand, no glances down, no staged preamble. His eyes met the crowd with unwavering resolve. His voice, steady and deep, struck every ear like a hammer to the conscience. He spoke not as a politician, but as the voice of a forgotten continent. "We have the land, the water, the sun, the resources, the people," he said. "So why is Africa still the poorest place on earth?" A question echoed through the hall. No answers came, and perhaps none were expected, for generations of Africans had asked the same question, only to be met with silence or despair. His tone wasn't loud or harsh. It was something else, an undeniable magnetism. Maybe it was the raw honesty in his gaze. Maybe it was the absence of polished rhetoric. Or perhaps it was because he spoke for millions who had never been heard. "We leaders travel the world begging," he declared. "We make proposals, we wait for aid, and then we repeat the cycle. Why, tomorrow it will be them knocking on our doors, not to give, but to ask for help." His words weren't just a statement. They were a prophecy, a proud conviction that Africa was not born to beg, but to rise. Why did the room fall utterly silent? Because his truth cut deep. Because his words were not just sharp, they were real. And above all, because this voice belonged to a man who had nothing to lose, yet dared to speak for an entire people. In that speech, Ibrahim Traoré asked for nothing. He blamed no one. He held up a mirror showing Africa a vision of dignity, pride, and courage to face itself. There are speeches that move people. There are speeches that make people think. But rare are those that shake the very foundations of a continent's mindset. And from that moment on, everyone wanted to know, who is this young man? Where does he come from? What drove him to stand up and say what no one else dared? A faded photograph tells the rest of the story. Taken around 2009 or 2010, it shows a boy barely in his 20s dressed in a pristine military uniform, his face still touched by youthful uncertainty. Back then, he was a lowly private, the lowest rank in the army. No one, not even himself, could have imagined that a decade later, this same young man would sit at the International Round Table addressing world leaders, and the world would know him as President Ibrahim Traoré. Unlike many African leaders, Traoré was not born into a political dynasty. No father in uniform, no uncle in a ministerial chair. He grew up in a humble rural village in Bondoki province, where most people make their living from the soil. No prestigious badges, no special lineage. The only things he had were intellect and patience. His first chosen path was not the military, but geology. He studied at John Sheppey Turbo University in Ouagadougou's capital. As a student, he was respectful and calm, yet deeply admired by his peers for his unwavering defense of truth in debates. Graduating with top honors instead of chasing a secure career or seeking fortune abroad like many of his contemporaries, he chose to join the army. Few understood why a geology graduate would choose the soldier's life. Was it love for his country? Or a desire to actively contribute, not merely observe from the sidelines? Whatever the reason, that decision altered his entire life's trajectory. He entered Nimona Officer School, not the country's most prestigious academy, but known for producing battle-ready officers. There he learned discipline strategy and how to listen to every soldier's voice. These lessons stayed with him, shaping the leader he would become. After graduating, he refused the desk job, instead volunteering for field duty. He chose the remote, the difficult. Places without electricity, without phone signal, only dust, wind, and people fiercely clinging to their land. Slowly, his name began to circulate as that of a model officer, unassuming, unambitious, yet always present where needed. A soldier who listened, a commander who shared, but above all, a man who knew when to be silent and when to speak. Some are born to be generals, others to remain silent forever. But some, like Ibrahim Traoré, live quietly for a time. Then in a moment nobody expected, they step forward and change the destiny of a nation. The soul of Sankara and the boy from Mentau. Ask the people of Burkina Faso who their greatest icon is, and you will not wait long to hear the name Thomas Sankara. A revolutionary leader, a radical thinker, a president who lived only 37 years, but whose ideas still burn bright today. He was the man who slashed presidential salaries, banned luxury cars for officials, and made self-reliance a national motto. Sankara was assassinated in 1987. 1 year later, in 1988, a boy was born in a small village called Bondoki. That boy was named Ibrahim Traoré. Many say it was mere coincidence, but coincidences kept piling up until people began to wonder if it was fate. Neither was born into wealth. Both chose the military path not for promotion, but for service. Both lived simply rejecting privilege and pomp. And both carried the same declaration: independence, integrity, self-determination. In an article by Congolese researcher Madeleine Vey, she speaks of transmission of souls across generations, a belief held by many ancient African communities. According to this, the soul of one who has not fulfilled their mission finds a new body to continue the unfinished journey. Many have drawn this parallel watching Ibrahim Traoré's actions. He does not flaunt his achievements on television, does not hold grand national celebrations. Instead, he wears his uniform, drives ordinary cars, refuses the presidential palace, and continues to receive the salary of a military captain. Like Sankara before him, Traoré believes no leader deserves a life of luxury while their people suffer in poverty. He holds firm to the conviction that the head of state should earn no more than anyone else unless they have done more than the rest. When asked why he refused to move into the presidential palace, Traoré simply answered, "I did not come here to enjoy myself. I came to serve." Not everyone believes in mystical tales, but the truth is, thousands of Burkina Faso's citizens have affectionately begun calling him the second Sarah. Maybe souls don't truly transmigrate. Maybe it's just that a young man so admired the late hero that he vowed to live like him. Whatever the reason, Ibrahim Traoré continues Sankara's dream with his own 2 feet. Remarkably, the people don't need him to say this, they sense it instinctively. Some things reveal themselves simply in how a person lives. The rise of a different kind of leader. Usually, when someone ascends to the heights of power, behind them stands a sprawling network of influence. Powerful backers, carefully calculated campaigns, long-standing political alliances. But with Ibrahim Traoré, the most baffling thing is that no one sees that. He is not a media darling nor a star of the political elite. He does not hail from the capital, nor is he a prominent figure on the international stage. He appears simply like a young man representing a new generation determined to bring better to his country. What sets him apart is not his age, but his definition of power. While many leaders crave admiration and praise, Traoré chooses to step back, observing, acting, and letting the people feel the impact. Since becoming president, he has refused to move into the presidential residence, declined the salaries reserved for heads of state. He continues to wear his old uniform, travel simply, and live as an officer would by choice, not compulsion. In an era when fame often walks hand in hand with privilege, Traoré's simplicity becomes a silent declaration. He doesn't speak much about leadership ethics, but it is his humility in every act that creates a very different kind of power. The power of integrity and righteousness. One of his most famous sayings is, "I did not come to live in glory. I came to fix what needs fixing and to leave when the work is done." This is not the kind of phrase one often hears from a head of state. Power often breeds clinging and greed. But with Ibrahim, there is a clear mindset. He came to work not to craft an image. One curious detail caught international media attention during a major event when stepping up to address the press. Traore wore military gloves and a mask that covered much of his face. When asked why he smiled and said, "I don't want people to remember my face. I want them to remember what I do." And that is precisely why his deeds have gradually become his signature. No need for flashy introductions or media entourages. When someone truly lives for others, their actions naturally find a way into people's hearts. The rise of Ibrahim Traoré politics is the natural presence of a person who makes others want to believe. Not because he is president, but because he makes people believe that being president does not mean living above others. A president who refuses the palace and redefines power. When Ibrahim Traoré became president, many assumed he would quickly leave behind ordinary life. That is what people are used to seeing from new leaders. An armored vehicle, a convoy of escorts, a soundproof mansion, and rows of security fences around the house. But no, Traoré did not follow that path. He refused to move into the presidential palace. The home he lives in remains the same place he occupied when he was still a captain in the military. Not a palace, nor long corridors draped with curtains, just a simple roof over a modest set of belongings enough to live on. What's remarkable is that Ibrahim did not just talk about cutting privileges. He outright rejected the presidential salary, which exceeds $70,000 a year, an enormous sum compared to the average income of a Burkina Faso citizen. Instead, he kept his old military pay the wage of a mid-ranking soldier. Government spokespeople confirmed the president receives no special allowances. Funds that would have gone to him personally are redirected to support public programs or bolster budgets for education, healthcare, and agricultural mechanization. Some skeptics assumed it was a public relations stunt, but then they saw schools rising in remote areas, the first tractors arriving in drought-stricken villages, and they understood this was no symbolic gesture but a genuine choice. Just as with his lifestyle, while many African leaders travel with expensive motorcades, Ibrahim Traoré rides in a regular off-road vehicle. No luxury car, no special license plates, no bulletproof glass shields. On official trips, he carries only what a normal official would need. He also has no media entourage filming or photographing every public appearance, and no one ever sees him flaunt his family. His wife does not appear in the press. His children never stand on ceremonial podiums. The whole country knows his name, but few know the faces of those closest to him. Not because they are unimportant, but because he believes public duty should be separated from private life. Traoré once said, "Leadership is not about being noticed, but about listening. Not about being served, but about serving." Indeed, he lives exactly by his words, quietly, simply, yet with a power that spreads far and wide. In a world where power is often defined by extravagance, Ibrahim Traoré has redefined it by simplicity, not the right to sit at the highest place, but the right to be closest to the people. Changes need no fanfare when actions speak louder than promises. In a world where politics is often tied to slogans, media campaigns, and promises printed more on billboards than reflected in lives, Ibrahim has chosen a different path. He does not speak much, nor hold grand opening ceremonies. Yet in just 2 years, Burkina Faso has begun to transform in startlingly tangible ways. People see it not through television, but through things they can touch, feel, and experience in everyday life. In rural areas, once forgotten, tractors have arrived for the first time. Fields once dependent on rain now have irrigation systems. The government not only subsidizes fertilizer, but also distributes crop seeds tailored to each region, helping farmers multiply their yields many times over. In the cities, agro-processing factories have started operating. Small weaving workshops are sprouting not to flaunt modernity, but to create jobs for thousands of young people. Weavers, machine operators, and engineers, people who once had to leave their homes to seek work, now have reason to return. One of the boldest moves has been building domestic oil refining and gold processing plants, cutting dependence on raw exports, a form of resource dumping that many African countries have endured for decades. Ibrahim Traoré understands that without mastering technology and controlling the value chain oil, wealth will remain as poor as ever. The healthcare sector has also been infused with new life. A national pharmaceutical center is under construction to produce medicine domestically, putting an end to the days of importing every single antibiotic pill, ending the chronic shortages of drugs in remote regions. In the energy sector, Traoré's government has signed agreements to develop clean energy solar power and even nuclear energy, not for show, but to meet essential needs. Power for factories, schools, and homes bringing light to darkness is not a slogan, but an action. These changes happen quietly. No fanfare, no lengthy addresses, but every achievement is recorded in numbers. New roads opened, schools built, bridges reconnecting once isolated communities. What builds trust is that he never overpromises. He simply starts working, then lets the people feel the difference. A citizen once said on the radio, "For the first time in years, we feel someone is listening to us. We don't need to know if he's a perfect president. We just know he's doing what's right." This is how Ibrahim Traoré leads his country. No pressure, no slogans, no statues, just a better life every day. After all that has been seen, heard, and felt, people still can't stop asking, who exactly is Ibrahim Traoré? He has no dazzling resume, no typical political ladder climbed, no ties to any powerful faction or ideology. He came to live as an ordinary man, and through small acts he has written a whole new style of leadership. But the question grows bigger. Is Ibrahim a rare exception or a signal for a new generation of leaders in Africa? If a young man without wealth, backing, or bombastic speeches can transform a nation in 2 years, why haven't other countries made similar leaps? Is it not resources that are missing, but courage, not policies, but honesty, not a population unwilling to change, but a lack of humility among leaders? To truly listen, Ibrahim Traoré does not promise to stay long. He once said he would leave when the work was done, but perhaps what he leaves behind matters more than a single term. It is a mirror for generations to come, a question mark posed to the entire Black continent. Do we want rulers or servants,